Meantime, you're watching here live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Vanessa Rufus taking over for Nick Sturdivant. We have a really important topic to talk about here this hour, and that is Helene recovery. And we're pleased to be joined right now by Lake Lure Mayor Carol Pritchett because there's a lot to mention about what's open in Lake Lure, how folks can go and support the town. But also, we really got to talk about the ongoing recovery efforts because it is a process even all these months later. So, Carol, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate your time.
You're certainly welcome. I'm delighted to be here, Vanessa.
So let's start off with Lake Lure. How is the town doing? What's open? I've seen you've put some events on the calendar for this month and beyond. So it sounds like y'all are welcoming folks right now to come and visit.
We absolutely are. That's absolutely true. Lake Lure, the town of Lake Lure is absolutely open and thriving, and we're so grateful for all the progress that has been made. And so many things are ready to receive visitors. The one thing that we're not able to open right now is the actual lake itself. We're in the process, which is wonderful. Army Corps of Engineers is been in the process since actually October of removing all of the sedimentation and subsurface and surface debris from Lake Lure, but that will continue through the summer. And until we have removed all of that, the lake cannot be open for visitors. But other than that, that's just one part of what is available in Lake Lure. The trails are open, which are beautiful. We have two 18-hole golf courses that are open in Rumbling Ball. Morse Park is partially open. Our own Public Works Department has redone that. The gazebo, where so many weddings have taken place over the last decades, are open. All of our hotels and restaurants are open, so we absolutely welcome everyone here. Of course, there is a little 6474 is open only to locals through Chimney Rock now, but we're just 13 miles off 26, so you can certainly access us by 26 or coming up 6474, and we welcome everyone coming here.
Now, I mean, you mentioned the fact that unfortunately you can't have the lake open yet for folks. This has been a really extensive, I guess, dredging, cleaning up process when it comes to the work. I saw the Army Corps of Engineers has been helping with that. And I've just kind of been blown away in general as we start to see the numbers reported from a statewide basis, both North and South Carolina with Helene recovery. The amount of debris that's been collected over the last several months related to this storm has been absolutely spectacular to think of. But I mean, that's a lot of work. And I mean, how much have you gotten actually out of the lake where you are right now?
Well, it absolutely is remarkable. This is so far, and just in the last week, I'll give you those stats just for the last week. 376,000 tons of silt and sediment was removed. 46,744 cubic yards of debris from the waterway was removed. That is the largest amount of silt and sedimentation removed in 1 week so far. That's enough to fill 25 Olympic swimming pools. Wow. So it's an incredible endeavor, and just the Army Corps has been our partner and really our savior in all of this. They're working 24/7, literally. Sometimes when you're on the roads, when you come in, you may be a little delayed because there are trucks that are taking the debris and sedimentation out of the town. But I just ask you to bear with us on that, because every truck that you see that may slow you down just a little bit means one more truckload of sedimentation that's not in Lake Lure. So it's just an amazing effort, but there is a huge amount, as you said, of sedimentation and subsurface debris, and it probably will continue at least until this fall.
Wow, that's unfortunate to hear, in the sense, we know that folks love the lake, and but I mean, just incredible progress thus far.
Well, it is, and this will restore to the lake to its natural beauty and usability and safety. So yes, Helene was a disaster for everyone and certainly impacted people in different ways. We're so lucky in Lake Lure, of course, not to have any loss of life, but what's being done to the lake now will preserve it for generations to come.
Recently, we spoke with the Boone Area Chamber of Commerce, and, we heard similar messaging from them as far as, we're open for business, come visit us. But we also heard something a bit more dire from the CEO and president there of the Chamber of Commerce, and he was speaking on the fact that we need people, not just we're welcoming people, we need people. He seemed pretty concerned that, that stat that we sometimes hear thrown out after natural disasters, the fact that 40% of small businesses don't reopen following a major natural disaster. He seemed to be concerned that that might come to fruition. What are you hearing from your small businesses in that area? Are they feeling as dire of a situation? And if so, what can folks do to help?
Well, of course, our economies are all mainly based on tourism. Certainly in Lake Lure it is. However, the tourism, our product for tourism here is the natural beauty of Lake Lure. Yes, certainly predominantly lake, but also the mountains, the trails, the parks, the golf courses, all those different things. So we don't have many merchandise stores here. So in a sense, that's really better because you can focus on more than one thing. Though you may not be able to access the lake right now, you certainly can access all the other things that we have available. It is very difficult for small business owners because we all know that small business owners have just a certain amount of capital reserves and really can't afford to go too long with no revenue coming in. And that is one reason that it is so important for us to encourage people to come and enjoy all the things in Lake Lure. As an example, we'll be having our usual 4th of July celebrations on both the 3rd and the 4th, one in Rumbling Ball and one on the beach here. We are having many celebrations like that. So I encourage everyone to come. It is, certainly we need to give all the help we can to our small business owners to help them live through this until we have Lake Lure back to its pristine beauty.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things as well that I think about with Lake Lure, and this just comes from, being a animal shelter volunteer. So I have a lot of colleagues, in my volunteer work who are also big animal lovers, but that was the Rainbow Bridge that was out there where everyone would bring their dog collars after their furry friend had passed away and crossed the Rainbow Bridge.
Right.
And that got destroyed during Helene. But I understand that y'all have tried to get that back up and running, and maybe there were some ways to salvage, some of that bridge. Is that back in place for folks?
We are, we're working on that right now. That's a work in progress. Certainly we're working with FEMA to get funding for that, certainly. But we are trying to preserve whatever parts of the bridge. It's not usable and it will have to be demolished. But we would like to preserve parts of it if we can as a memorial to all the wonderful things that have happened on that bridge in the past. So that's certainly part of our plan moving forward.
Yeah. So you just mentioned FEMA. From my understanding, you recently touched base with FEMA again. You had a recent meeting in the past couple of days with FEMA. How is the work going on with FEMA? Because I know we're transitioning since Helene first happened to a different administration over FEMA. And so some things have kind of transitioned, it sounds like, as far as, perhaps how FEMA might be operating going forward following the hurricane season. How was that transition for y'all? Do you feel like you're still getting what you need from federal agencies? And I guess, we'll keep it there with that question for now.
Yeah, our personal interaction with everyone from FEMA has just been very productive, and they're certainly very knowledgeable and certainly trying to help us. It's not a problem with the individual, so we've had a great partnership there, but it is an extremely slow process. We have not received, we've received so far just $2.1 million in funding, and that is actually for money that we spent out of the town's bank accounts, so to speak, in the first 3 weeks to do emergency work. And so that's really a refund. But as far as getting any obligation from FEMA for projects that we have moving forward, that is a very, very slow process. I'll be honest with you. I think that there is certainly a collaboration between FEMA and the state, and I know both parties are working very hard with that. It is difficult because our town just has an annual budget of $9 million. So we look at probably 50% of our revenues being lost for this year because of the lake and the marina. And when we had to expend, $2.1 million of our own money, which is understandable, we use local contractors and we're so thankful for them, but they need to be paid immediately. So that puts all small municipalities, not just Lake Lure, in a very difficult position. We're very fortunate going into this. We've had a very prudent town manager and financial officer, and we were in good financial shape prior to the hurricane, so that's good for us. But it is a slow process, and it is something, however FEMA is restructured or reorganized, that is something I think that needs to be focused on, and that is how to expedite the process of getting funding to the municipalities.
I mean, and as far as, speaking on how things could be improved on that front, I was also curious how things were going as far as, some of the relief funding that we've seen discussed on the state level. Of course, we've also seen similar discussions on the federal level as well. And we heard, once again, we spoke with the Boone Area Chamber last week, and the CEO and president flat out said, he said, y'all need to take this Helene recovery out of the budget because the budget talks are going slow, and he seemed to feel like it was holding up the Helene recovery for so many folks. And so, I mean, I'm just curious to hear how your discussions might be going with representatives about, getting the help that you need from a state level, perhaps.
Well, the state is certainly very involved in it, and of course, FEMA now was 100% funded by FEMA. Now it's 90% for the federal government and 10% for the state. So certainly, General Assembly, and the Senate, they're looking to see where to find that money. And there certainly is, there is a difference in whether it's in the budget, which can make it certainly a slower process, as compared to the Senate, which has a separate way to fund the money. So, I think the state, I will tell you, I've heard so much discussion about all of these processes, disaster recovery funding should be handled by the state. And I don't disagree that many times the state knows better because they're closer to the disaster, closer to the municipality. They know better what funding is more necessary than others. But, that is a large department to develop, and one that I think the state is focusing on now moving forward. Grow North Carolina certainly has been implemented by Governor Stein, and they're working on trying to make sure that funding gets to the municipalities. So, it is a very slow process. FEMA has always been a very slow process, and I certainly do believe that there are things that need to be done to expedite that.
I'm just curious your thoughts as you reflect back on the last several months now of the storm and then the recovery that followed. What have you learned about your town, about the folks in your community in the wake of the storm?
Well, I'll tell you, it's just been remarkable. They always say disasters bring out the best and the worst of everyone, and that's probably true. But I think that, the amount of resilience and compassion and loyalty to the town has just been remarkable. We have not, so many people have said, is everybody leaving? Or no, people are not. They're here for the long run. They are willing to dig in, do whatever they need to do to adapt to the difficult situations right now. And, most of the residents here, everybody's had to make accommodations, from the business owners to the residents. But I think, the ability to look into the future, look at the long term, and realize that this is something that just takes a while to fix, and to be patient with it, and to recognize that, we're all inconvenienced by it, to be honest with you. So I think, one of the things that there are a lot of people in Lake Lure who are we're retired. We're getting lots of new younger people moving in, which is marvelous, and always a real shot in the arm to any community. But a lot of the people here have been through hard times before, and I think that they appreciate more what it takes to just be resilient, stand shoulder to shoulder with the people in your community, and just work out the things that need to be done. So I couldn't have more admiration for the community here. Certainly, just a tremendous amount of respect for our emergency management crew, both the fire and the police, who've just been amazing in all this, and all of the people who work for the town of Lake Lure here have just really worked together and addressed a disaster, that they were unprepared to address, because not that we did not have a good emergency management plan, we did, but you can only make a plan for what you envision might possibly happen. So we learn from this, we recover from this disaster, and we move forward knowing more about what we need to do next time.
How do you feel about us being in hurricane season now? I mean, is that kind of filtered your, the Helene experience, has that filtered your thoughts on hurricane season as we are in it right now, and how y'all have prepared for this season? What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. We actually had a meeting 2 weeks ago to redo our emergency plan. And, looking at everything, taking everything into consideration, the emergency plan that we had before, and DEQ was a part of that. Our emergency management people were a part of that. People from the county and the state were a part of that. So you always have to look at how can we improve. I lived the majority of my life in the Gulf Coast, in Texas, Louisiana, until 2011. So I've lived through almost every hurricane that's occurred, to be honest with you, right in the middle of it. And I'll tell you, another hurricane will come. It may not be exactly like this one. This was certainly an unusual situation, but another hurricane will come, and we need to be prepared for it. So we're focusing on that at the same time that we focus on recovering from this community. How can we be better next time? How can we protect our town better than we did last time?
Mayor, is there anything else you'd like to leave our viewers with here on Live Impact News about the situation, about the recovery, about coming to visit, whatever you wish to say to our viewers?
Well, everybody always says, what do you need now? And we're so thankful for all the help that we have gotten, and just from so many different sources. If there was one thing that people could do to help now, it would be to come and enjoy Lake Lure. Close your eyes to the things that there are some things that you may see. The lake can't be your use, certainly, and you'll see Army Corps out there just working tirelessly to bring the lake back to its beauty. But come and help make it able for all the people who live in Lake Lure and who have businesses here to survive this in an economic way. So if you could do one thing for us, come and visit us and enjoy what's here for Lake Lure now.
All right. Lake Lure Mayor Carol Pritchett, thank you so much for your time here, and we hope to have you back on. Let us know if you have any big updates that you'd like to share with our viewers here on Live Impact News.
I absolutely do that. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure, truly.
Absolutely. All right. We'll see you again soon.